Well, welcome again once more, everybody, to our Teach 2030 workshop. I'm co-hosting today with Shubhangi from India. Welcome, Shubhangi.
Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone.
Different
Uh,
times across
yeah,
our
yes,
country. So good
yeah,
day to everybody.
yeah.
Lovely to have you here. So today we're going to be moving forward with our independent learning series. We're on part 2, part 3, I think it should say, of our independent learning skills series. And we're going to be talking about some strategies that we can use in the classroom to promote our independent learning amongst our students. We've already discussed what independent learning actually means in the classroom, how it's all about giving ownership to our students and allowing them to take control, or a little bit of control, of their own learning journey. And these are the skills that we really want to promote in order to build their skills for life, which is what we should be doing as effective teachers. Okay, so today's objectives that we're going to focus on is about these active learning approaches, some specific strategies, methods that we can use in our classroom, and why we would choose to do so. And then we're going to ask you to think about what you already do and reflect on whether you could add a little bit more, or introduce it as a brand new style of teaching in your classrooms. So active learning then, what actually is active learning? Well, active learning is all about our students. Rather than us standing at the front, lecturing, giving them lots of information that they take down, it's about changing this approach and allowing our students to take a more active, proactive role, not just sitting passively at the desk, listening and possibly losing focus. Allowing our students to take control allows them to manage their learning, manage their pace, and become more actively engaged in what they're actually doing in order to reach the success criteria. They will have a key role in their progress, and this is quite motivating. It allows them to feel valued, to feel that they have a stronger purpose as they work through different tasks and challenges that they might come across. They take ownership and become more invested in their learning journey, like I said, to create more success and reach that success criteria. So just to give another definition, I've got a little video for us to watch, which will embed active learning and give you some ideas about what that looks like.
Welcome to this episode on active learning. Active learning is a pedagogical strategy where students are actively and not passively engaged in the learning process. Active learning ensures that students go beyond passively listening to their teachers in the classroom by giving them a role to play in their own learning. As a result of active learning, students are able to develop skills such as critical thinking and collaboration. In contrast, passive learning occurs when a teacher dictates the learning. In other words, students receive information and memorize it, making it difficult for students to develop skills. A benefit of active learning includes motivating students to become more engaged in the process of learning and building stronger relationships with their peers and teachers. It is important to remember that active learning can happen beyond the classroom and without the teacher. However, students will still require clear guidance and support from their teachers. Examples of active learning involve student participation in activities such as group discussion, experiential learning, role play, presentations, reflections, group work, and many more. Successful active learning takes planning and preparation, but with the right approach, active learning will pay enormous dividends in your class. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and press that notification.
So hopefully that's given you more of an idea of how positive this approach is. I'm sure we've all fallen into the trap of where we are standing at the front lecturing. I know I do it in my own classroom, and I catch myself thinking, right, this lesson is very much teacher led. I need to change things because I'm losing some students, they're drifting away. So it's at those moments that I look at my lesson plan and I think, right, how can I mix this up so that they are actually doing the majority of the talking, they are doing the research rather than me delivering the notes. And here are some active approaches that we can take. Shubhangi is going to go through a few different strategies where we could involve this style of teaching and learning in our classroom. Shubhangi, when you're ready.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. The video was really very helpful, to get to know
I
about
thought
the
it would
active
be
learning.
useful. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and we will see some of the ideas which we can use in a classroom to have some active learning. Okay, so one of them are think, pair, and share. Think, pair, and share helps providing the pupils to prompt, giving them time to respond to it. Children then share after, when they think, children can share about their ideas with their partner, they can share and discuss with each other. Each pair feedbacks their ideas. You listen, ask them to elaborate, allow them to come up with their own evaluation. So here in think, pair, share, the children are working on their own topic, and they will work up according to they will also get the feedbacks from their peer, and they will share with the classroom. So this will also help them to have their active learning through the group task. Okay, the next point is role play. Role play is one of the most important and very, very encouraging activity which you can include into your classroom. For role play can be used to help improve children's confidence and encourage collaborative learning. It also helps children to speak, come in front of the class and speak, to create their own dialogues, do their own learning, So this is one of the very important part, the role play, which you can include. 3-step interviews, a cooperative learning strategy. The 3-step interview encourages students to develop active listening skills by quizzing one another, sharing their thoughts, and taking notes. Children work in groups of 3, taking on the roles of the interview, and note taker. So these are the 3 important parts which we can also include in our classroom for encourage the active learning. Okay, so active learning, the problem, there are two more, which is the one of them is problem-based learning. Problem-based learning reverse the traditional teaching approach. Students are provided with a problem to solve and then have to work out which learning and research they need to engage with to solve the problem. This activity works best in group setting and creates individual learning paths as each group and student learns independently. Second, the pause procedure. The pause procedure, I personally really like, like when you have given a task to the children and they are, they are working. For example, you have given them the role play and they're working on their role play, creating the dialogues and giving the roles which who is doing what. You can give the pause for 12 to you can just start giving the pause after every 12 to 15 minutes and keep on asking what they are doing, how much they have made. If you have given a role play, ask them what are the dialogues, what are they going to do, who is going to play which role. So these are the way which you can also evaluate in the classroom. The pause and procedure is one of the very useful method which you can also use in your classroom.
That's lovely, Shubhangi. Thank you. I just wanted to go back to think, pair, share and the group work because I've been using that in my classroom quite a bit recently. I'm an English teacher and we are developing oracy skills at the moment, allowing our students to practice public speaking, which they're very unconfident with. So it's important that we give them safe spaces and environments where they can practice that. So we've been studying a text and it involved doing some research. So I put my my class into groups. I allowed them to choose their own groups. So at first, because I wanted them to feel safe and secure working with someone that they felt comfortable with. Once they'd done their research together in a small group, and I'd given them specific ideas, specific areas that they had to research. And then the result of that was to present to the class what they had found out, what they researched. But it was important that I instructed each member of the group to deliver one aspect of what they'd found out. So I've recently used small group work, independent learning. And at first they weren't very good at it, but they are getting better the more that I use it in my classroom. And the other one that I've used in my classroom is role play. We've been reading a play at the moment, a scripted play, and the children really enjoy reading the characters' lines and dialogue. So they were very enthusiastic about practicing their reading skills, their voicing words and vocabulary, and developing their oracy skills. So occasionally it's a really good thing to introduce some active learning approaches to encompass a bit of independent learning. These are skills that we really want our students to develop, especially for later life, for public speaking, for areas where they need to develop confidence and develop skills. So now I'm going to ask you about your experiences. What approaches do you use in your classroom? Have you ever tried any of these strategies? Can you add your ideas into the comment box for some discussion, please? Let us know what subject you teach and whether you've used this. If you'd like to, you could maybe place your hand up. I think there's a button that you can press where you can place your hand up and you can let us know verbally what approaches you use in the classroom. So over to you. Johannes, fantastic. You've got your hand up. Thank you. Would you like to open your microphone and contribute what you do in your classroom?
Hi, everybody. I want to share my own approach normally I use. I'm an ICT teacher. I teach the kids computer from basic to advanced. So normally what I do is get the kids' hands on the tasks. I make sure that it's not only writing, because IT is basically practical. So the kids normally do code. I allow them to do I put them in groups, and then we do. So it is we see all the kids coding, and once they have some bugs in their codes, and then we call the person immediately closer to them who knows more than them, and they share ideas. So like most of these kids do help the others to follow the trend of where we are going. So that's my approach normally I use in teaching ICT.
That sounds fantastic, Johannes. Thank you. You're breaking up slightly, so I didn't quite catch everything, but I did catch coding and I did catch group work. So that sounds fantastic. Tandy, you also teach English like me. You've written in the chat box, the strategy you use is think, pair, share. It works for learners with a confidence problem. Yeah, I totally agree. And that's why I allowed my groups to sort of choose themselves so they felt confident with a friend. So that was quite nice. Natalie, you've got your hand up. Would you like to open your microphone and contribute?
Hi, I'm a training specialist, so I have to teach industrial experts how to convert their skills into the instructional delivery for classroom instructions. So I find that the think, pair, share also works because working with adults, They have their own mindset, their own way of doing things. And when you have to introduce a new concept, you have to allow them to buy in. So usually when I put them into groups and we have a problem solving, you'll get the different strategies coming out. But then I'll pull it all together to introduce the new concept that I wanted to share. So it's a less threatening and it's a little more accepting when they contributed what they thought or their perceptions, and they may see some new ways of adjusting and building. And they
That's
also like role
brilliant.
play as much.
That's great. Thank you so much, Natalie, for your contribution. It sounds like a really good strategy in your classroom. Thank you for that. Tandy, I think I saw your hand up just then. Would you like to tell us a bit more about what you wrote in the chat box? Are you there, Tandy? Okay, maybe Tandy might come back to us shortly. I can see in the chat box Flora Solange. Again, apologies for pronunciation. I use grouping, think, pair, share. You grouped with different abilities. Yeah, that's another brilliant strategy during different activities. They interact, cooperate, and come up with ideas which they share with the rest of the class. That's great. And I guess that builds confidence as well. And I'm sure they like working at someone of the same ability of themselves as well, which is a very effective strategy. Boris, you teach economics, pause procedure when you use the video. Yeah, I can relate to that. I use that quite a lot because sometimes videos are very fast for our students, and it allows them to kind of take on board what's being delivered to them, what information they're receiving to complete tasks on their worksheets. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Adelia, you teach English language. The strategy uses group sharing along with reading. Absolutely, that's what I do too. Put them into small groups, get them to read a bit of text and then present what they have discovered. So it sounds like some of us are quite experienced at using these different approaches, which is really, really nice to hear. And it will allow us to move forward in our methodologies in the classroom, our different strategies, and basically become better at what we do, which is fantastic. Well done, everybody. So on reflection then, when we do incorporate this kind of teaching and learning into our classrooms and our lessons, we are providing our learners with key life skills, which is what I've said at the beginning. Just before I continue, Adelia, I see that you've just raised your hand. Would you like to contribute?
Good afternoon, Sarah. Good afternoon,
Hi,
everyone.
Adelia.
Oh, I'm having a little challenge. I don't know. This active learning, yeah, the active learning is so interesting. But now with a class like some of us who have a class of 70 students in one class, and you have about less than 2 hours to be with them, I don't know. I'll need to, please, you help me. Someone should help me. How can I really incorporate this in my classroom? Having about 70 students in a single class of 50 students. So I'm really thinking how it could work. Thank you.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to hand it over to our group today. So large classes then, how do we incorporate independent learning when we've got multiple students in our room, 70 students? Does anybody have any experience of that?
Sarah, can you hear me now?
Yes, Tandy. Hi, I can
Oh,
hear you again.
I have been struggling. I've been calling your name and I thought I was just disturbing the proceedings there. I needed to answer the first question, but now my colleague here, my esteemed colleague, has just asked a question about handling a bigger group. I have schools that have bigger groups than she has. I'm talking about 100 in a group. But I've learned that, yes, I've learned that there is nothing that can big think, pair, and share. Because once you have your groups stationed, which is going to be something that you have to do all the time, it helps you to move around, firstly. And secondly, it helps you to even unearth those learners who will be hiding behind others. But if you're going to stand in front of them in a form of dictatorship, that's where it's going to be difficult for you to know your learners. I know that the space may not permit you to move around, but once you strategically, place them, it is how you place them that is also going to change their mindset, knowing that they also get a chance to have their teacher walking around them. And once you have those groups, make sure that you know their names. Group A has 6 learners and these are their names. And the most important thing is call them by their name. Do not say you boy at the back with the red jersey. Do you understand? But once they see that you are actually making an effort to know them, psychologically, that on its own makes them to feel very important and they'll want to learn. There's nothing we can do in country like ours in Africa. I mean, let me say the continent in Africa. We have that situation and it has always been like that. And it is not going away very soon. Thus, we are part of Commonwealth. I want to say that we are so lucky because the strategies that we learn here, the only way for you to know that they're working, it is to put them into practice. If you're going to take something from here and you don't put it into practice, you will not know how it's going to work. So I think the Think Parent Share for now will definitely set a tone for even independent learning. When you say, let's hear from Group B, which consists of Abel, Soul, and this one and that one, calling them by their name. And they'll start working. Definitely they'll start working. Bigger groups, I'm telling you, it's an exodus. We have it even here. I wanted to go back. I don't know if I've answered. I'm just throwing in my 6 cents there. But going back to the first part about using, you asked about the group, what strategies. I said it's still Think Parent Share. Right now in South Africa, at the schools, the syllabus, the curriculum says we need to conduct orals. Orals are carry 50 marks of the end of the year exam mark, end of the year mark. And so learners have to engage into this torturous. I call it torturous because they don't want to stand in front and talk. And especially if teachers did not do justice in making sure that they prepare them. So what I do is, since I'm a facilitator, I share these skills with my teachers. I even go into a classroom. Luckily, I'm allowed to support even as far as go into the classroom. And I will be using these strategies whereby I say that let them, find strength from each other. Start when you teach them informally, group them, and then let them present the speech to each other as a peer. By the time they present to the entire group, everybody knows everybody's strength, and it works for them because now they know each other and they have assessed one another, and all that you have to do is to just guide there and there. So Think Parent Share is definitely the way to go.
Tandy, thank you so much. You've contributed some valuable points. I'm just going to pick up on a few. I think what you said about names is really, really valuable, knowing your students' names. I have an example on a different scale to you, admittedly, but I know when I go into a classroom and they're not the students that I regularly teach and I don't know their names. So I have a few issues with behaviour. But if I know the children from elsewhere around the school, then I make a point of saying their names, and then that allows the behaviour to settle down in the classrooms. So I think knowing your students' names is really important. It allows them to feel valued, to establish that relationship, of the professional relationship between teacher and student. So names and building relationships is a really good strategy to involve in teaching. And you also talked to Tandy about oracy and orals. I completely understand what's happening there because it's happening in my classrooms. We have examinations where speaking is an element of their final assessment, and they do find it difficult to speak in front of their peers, to speak in front of groups. Public speaking is a challenge. Now, we would be doing them a disservice, you're absolutely right, if we did not give them any practice. So we in my school and in my classrooms, we try and make sure that we are encouraging students to work in the small groups and to talk in public in the front of the rest of their peers and their classmates, because it is an important life skill. And if we don't allow them opportunities to practice, then they can never get better at it, and it won't help their confidence levels. So the sooner we do it and the more regularly we do it, I think we will be doing our students a big favour. And then the final thing I'm going to pick up on is the teacher role amongst independent learning. It's still very, very important. Although I've been talking about the fact that we are encouraging students to take control of their own learning, to be independent learners, our role as facilitating this is extremely vital. We are there to lead them through, to guide them, to model and to show them how to do things in order to reach success. So your role as monitoring, as walking around and circulating the classroom is important, encouraging students to stay on track, helping students who need some extra help, giving them time check reminders when they're working through tasks. Your role is very important. And on our Teach 2030 website, I have written some blogs that go into a bit more detail about the teacher role, if you'd like to have a look on the website. So I'm going to just start summing things up now and ask you to reflect on your own teaching. Think about whether you do practice this in your classrooms or whether you could do more of it. Think about a lesson that you plan to teach this week or in the near future, because I know some of you are already broken for summer break. But think about some of the techniques that we've discussed today. Does anybody have any more contributions before we close? Well, Shubhangi, would you like to add anything just to wrap things?
Can I add something? I'm sorry, I'm trying to raise
can.
my virtual hand here.
Absolutely, Tanji.
Another thing that I should bring to attention is that our learners are not second language speakers when it comes to English. Others, English comes, I think it's the seventh language they've spoken. Take into consideration the background that they grow up in. In the house, they speak isiZulu, and the friend speaks Sesotho. So this child becomes exposed to the different languages spoken around. By the time they get to school, they are told that you are going to learn a second language. The first one will be your home language, and the next language is going to be English. But you know what? The middle is not being addressed. The gray area is not being addressed, that there are so many factors that really are going to disturb this child to get to this one language, which he also have to pass at the end of the year. So we have so many different dynamics that come into that as teachers, we really need to, to look into such things in our day-to-day teaching and learning. We may be coming from different countries, but I think that there are some factors which are very, very common, that we are teaching teenagers, we are teaching learners who come from different backgrounds, and they're bringing all these factors into the pot. So language being the most important, I'll say, phenomenon in the whole world, because without it, we cannot drive any form of goods. Other subjects rely on it. And as English teachers, Sarah, we have our work cut out for us. We have to make sure that these learners, definitely, we have to make sure that these learners speak, and they speak to be understood and heard. No, it's got nothing to do with the accent, because in South Africa, we have learners who believe that if they twang, they speak in a twang, it makes them a better speakers, only to find that, they're the worst speakers ever. So I'm telling you, I'm just adding that we have a huge responsibility. But anyway, I'm ready to work, as I've been. I'm ready to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanji. That is wonderful. And I think that's a really important word to finish on, actually, responsibility. As teachers and as educators, we do have a responsibility to our students, and a very big one at that. And it is that we have selected this career, so we need to do justice by our students, and we are responsible for allowing them to be successful in their futures. So thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, Shubhangi, for co-hosting with me. If you'd like any more information about this style of learning, please have a look on our website, Teach2030. There's a variety of teaching tips, there's a variety of courses, there's a variety of previous videos of the workshops that you may have missed. And we are always here that you can communicate with us, you can ask us any questions. So thank you so much.